I see my forehead shining in the window.
What's going on, Afro Diaspora Nation? We are live. We are on the way. We are live with another sensational episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as you guys can probably notice already, we are here surprising you guys already with the introduction. I don't think we need an introduction for this, Major, do we? We're already dressed for the occasion. Let the camera go. Let the camera go, my guy. Major. Look at that. That's a little surprise we got for everybody today.
We do need the intro for sure. This is the introduction today.
We do need the intro, as you all can see the logo. And you guys wondering, well, we got people here today, the guest of tonight that will enlighten us with amazing knowledge behind their group. They're a band, the musician band, a rock band. So be ready to be enlightened and be ready to be diving into some topics that we're going to want to dive today too. But thank you for joining us for the explanation. We're here. I'm your host, Baraka. Obviously, on my right side here, we got Major.
Power in the details.
In the house.
Power in the details.
Let's get it going now. Without further ado, let's introduce you guys the guests of tonight. We got NIPPLE in the building.
Okay, thanks for
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. I saw a little heart there. I saw a little heart. We love that. You put it around the nipple too. We got to make sure we love it. There you go.
Put it around the logo. Yeah.
I love it. So traditionally, we always want to get to know the guests of tonight. So we will introduce individually, obviously. Starting off on the left
Sarita.
side. Sarita. Okay. That's a very unique name. It's really
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a really awesome name. And we got
I'm slightly more dull. Rob.
Okay. Well, you emphasize that you pull it Rob.
Yeah.
So that's still good right
Rob.
there. Welcome to the show.
Only my
Rob,
mother
Sarita.
says Robert, and it's only when I've been bad. So,
Yeah. But you prefer Rob as
Yeah,
That's
Rob.
just
Rob. I mean,
cut it short.
Robbie. I get sometimes
Oh,
too.
Robbie too.
Yeah, it really depends on what era of my life you knew me in first.
right.
What name I get.
But currently we got Rob. That's
Currently
it.
it's Rob. Yeah, that's the most common.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show. We're very glad to have you
Thank you so
to the
much.
show. We understand that the rest of the band is not here today, but we're absolutely glad to have two of you to just explain and get to know the Nickelback a little bit.
Yeah.
Because just the name obviously got me,
Yeah,
got to
of
me,
course.
and I was wondering already, how did that name come by and how did this form, as a group together? So if I would say maybe Rob can try to answer that.
Oh, the Nippleback
Yeah,
story.
because you were very curious to tell me about all that.
Yeah, I mean, we originated as as an acoustic folk trio, which is like far removed from what we are today. But that was our origin back in 2018.
Right.
And originally it was just three of us getting together and playing and jamming and having fun and writing some songs. And then then our third member who's no longer with us, but he arrived and said, "Oh yeah, we have a gig on Canada Day and we need 45 minutes." And we didn't even have a name, right? So we were kind of like, oh. And I was like, do we have songs, like actual songs? Like, are we ready for this?
Yeah.
But we had a month to prepare for that. So that particular rehearsal, we spent most of the rehearsal trying to come up with names. And very early on, Sarita blurted out Nippleback, which made us all laugh immediately. We were like, "Oh, this is fun."
So originated from Sarita.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
there you go.
But then we didn't. We were like, "Oh no, we can't do that. That's not, that's not serious enough for us." We're, and so then we spent about 3 hours like making up names and going, "No, that's terrible," and going on with that. And then realized that actually that name was the only one that stuck. It stuck in your head.
Was the best.
The first thought is always
it
original
always
thought.
elicited a positive response.
Yeah.
And so we thought, oh well,
Or a giggle.
Initially, we shied away from that because, you don't want people to not take you seriously. But then we realized that actually we don't want people to take us too seriously, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That we wanted to be able to have the leeway to have fun, and we wanted a name that told people that it's more about joy than about serious politics or being heavy or,
Right.
there's a lot of serious bands out there and they're angry and they're negative and they have loud guitars and we didn't want to be that. We're fine with having loud guitars, but we just didn't want to be, just negative emotions. We want always to be swinging towards the positive and with a name like Nippleback, how can you miss? Right?
You really
thank you,
can't
Sarita,
miss.
for this amazing name because that came out just the way it's supposed to come out. That's just a really beautiful, well thought name. And like you said, Rob, coming to the stage, you want to make sure everyone is ready to have fun, have a good time. Not only take it seriously because you want to make sure you have a good time, and the presence just Nippleback coming in there. That I'm pretty sure everybody already having a good time. Oh, okay, wow, what a very interesting name, So major.
Honestly speaking,
Yeah.
when I heard that Nippleback is coming to the show,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you mean? I asked Ossie, what do you mean? Who's coming? It's like, oh, Nippleback is coming. Then I was like, can you send me the how it's written, the name,
Yeah.
right? Then when he said the name, I saw that it was just written the way I thought.
Yeah,
I was like, wow. I'm interested to know who brought this name.
Shout out to Nippleback. We're here. We're representing today. We're not going anywhere today.
It's really a joyful moment to have
Yes.
you in the house.
Mhm.
Sarita, when you brought this name, did it just come randomly, or did you refer to something that is catchy? Was that was in your mind?
I
or
was
just,
trying to say Nickelback, but it came out wrong. It came out of my mouth wrong.
Who?
It came out. I was trying to say Nickelback, but I said Nippleback, and then we all of a sudden burst out laughing, and we're like,
Wow.
"Oh my gosh, that is something." It was like one of those mispronunciations that actually works out better.
Gold.
Yeah,
Pure
it was
Wow.
gold.
Yeah.
I find that very fascinating, to be honest with you. That's a really, really good way to make it. How long has Nippleback been together as the Fully Blind?
So about
Well, our first gig was Canada Day in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I think we'd been playing together for about 6 months
Something
before
like
that. So it was probably like right at the end of 2017 and beginning of 2018 that we formed. We just didn't really get formal about it until we had a show to do. And then after that, we just kept kind of getting shows and expanding our repertoire. And, there was a lot of growth in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
We went from not having a set to having like 3 hours of music that we could play.
Oh.
And in about 4 months, it was like a big thing. And then we spent a few years dropping covers out of our set and bringing in originals. And now we're really rarely do covers now. We mostly do originals. It's only when we need a couple extra minutes or something that we will bring in a song from outside.
That's really amazing. I feel like the chemistry that the two of you have already is great. I can just imagine how the whole band is as a chemistry. So I think that's the good thing about it. And obviously looking for more years for Nippleback to be out there shining.
But the thing is, when we started, the third person that's not here anymore was my ex-husband. And so when we first started playing together, it was Rob playing with my ex-husband. They had a musical click. They just had a guitar bond instantly. And so then when we were playing with the three of us, it was like me with my ex-husband and my current husband. So it was kind of like playing with two husbands.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute.
We're
I don't know. Hold
We're still married.
the phone.
Wait.
I know. Like let's
We're getting there now.
So
Nice.
that's where it started. But
Good.
there was a lot, my divorce was not a clean, nice thing. And so playing music together with the three of us became about healing. The three of us
Good.
getting over stupid shit from the past.
Yeah.
Can I say that word?
Oh
Yeah. You can, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so
It's part of healing too.
yeah. Yeah, so that's where Nippleback was kind of about healing from trauma. And also, anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think, obviously, it's an untraditional way to form a band. You know,
Yeah.
let's get all their ex-husbands together into a room and play music together. It's probably
That's
not
how
where
often.
most bands would start, but
I know.
for us, it was it was about trying to make an example of how you can move past
Yeah.
the negative things. I mean, relationships
Yeah.
break
Yeah.
down, and they had a child together, and so it was impossible to really separate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we wanted to try and find a way that we could all function, as parents, because we were all in one way or another a role model for our daughter, and they were struggling with forgiving their father because he had left town and lived in Toronto for a number of years, and then before he came back. And so us playing together was kind of about healing, but also showing that there was a space and a benefit to forgiveness and to learning to reconcile some pretty difficult injuries, from the past.
But the thing is, once you start playing music, you get into the song. You're in it.
Yeah.
We're all in it.
Yeah.
And then it's something you're not thinking about.
You not
others.
think about that anymore.
No, it's not even there.
Yeah.
You're just concentrating on the next note that you have to play
That's the truth.
and getting it right on the beat, or being in sync with the other players. So all that other stuff it dissolves. It evaporates into, doesn't seem so important anymore.
Wow. This is part of the things that makes me really love music, because it really does not only unite people, but it helps us to heal
Absolutely.
from many things that we go through. Without going back to the past, because we have to bury the past and move on, I would like to know, how do you balance between family right now, family and the music? Because music somehow is business, right? Yes, it can be, as a family, but music can also be business. Now, business and family need a balance so that things can work properly. I want to know, how do you get to balance?
You want to take a slice at that?
Okay.
Rob, come on.
Wow.
Robbie.
It's like, here's another bus. We'll throw you under. I think, it's the great difficulty for most artists is to figure out business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, in today's world, it's necessary to have a business element to music creation, because otherwise musicians don't eat, right? And if they don't eat, they starve, and then they don't make music anymore, and that's not going to really work. But a lot of the struggle is business kind of creates this arena for competition, and that's great for business, but music makers are they're not actually products, right? They're people, and it isn't important to the music whether one song has sold more than another song in terms of its value as art, right? And so it becomes a real struggle for us as musicians to figure out how to negotiate business, because I don't want to compete with other artists. I want to help other people realize their potential as artists. I want to provide them opportunities to do music making. I expect the same from other artists as well. And I think, you don't become a good artist by standing on the bones of all the other artists you destroyed. You become a better artist by working on your art. That said, we still have to put a price tag on tickets for the show. But we typically are trying to, make that as little as possible, because we want to eliminate all impediments from people coming to the show. You know, we're trying to grow ourselves as an artist. We want people to see our music and experience that show. So I don't know if we've figured out how to actually make a successful business at making art right at this point. Right. But a lot of our focus right now is just on building listeners and fans and trying to interact, with them. Basically at the beginning, it's like one at a time. You're like, how do I reach you? How do I, I'll answer your comment on YouTube. I'll engage with you on Instagram. We'll message you back on Facebook. We'll do all those things because we want people to see the show, right? And I think right now, we have day jobs, right? We have to keep the roof over our heads.
Exactly.
And do that. And we find time in those spaces in between those other commitments to make music and to try and promote the act.
Yeah. I think this is very beneficial.
I was just going to say, the other thing is we just make music a part of our lives. Like it's a part of our being at home is, picking up a guitar and playing some music with our family, with our daughter, and just kind of jamming some stuff out. So music is kind of integrated into our home life. Yeah. So how is that balance? It's just like it's part of who we are.
It's part of
and we try to make space for that, for each other too.
I think, Rob, you are blessed because I've worked in music stores. And most of the time when people come buying guitars, they'll tell you, I got 10 guitars now. My wife is, like, this is too much. But I think you are blessed because you can buy as much as you can.
Oh, yeah.
She's going to love it. It's part of
that.
I want to have a house full of instruments, as many as possible. Like that's my kind of interior design is like just pack the instruments in there.
Yeah. Wow.
I love it.
Yeah. And we've certainly, we build up our instruments and then we trade them in for other instruments. And
we had a harp, harp, mandolin, bass guitar.
Well, we have one of those ukulele.
Oh, you do also have a ukulele.
Ukulele bass and a ukulele and a banjo.
Banjo too, and a few guitars, and a piano.
Wow.
Keys. It's easy to keep getting new instruments. The hard part is that you have to learn how to play them, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was wondering if you guys do play.
I'm very proficient. My second instrument is the kazoo.
Oh, okay.
And I'm really good at that. And I've been trying to convince the band that we need to make a space for a kazoo solo in a song, and we just haven't managed it yet. I've met with some opposition at times.
Wow. And so Rachel, do you play
we haven't got the right song yet, I guess.
I play piano and guitar.
Wow. It's amazing.
And sing.
And sing. Yeah, of course. That's another instrument too. The best instrument ever.
We've discussed obviously a lot about what NIPPLE stands for. I just want to dive into the message that NIPPLE brings to the community because we've spoken how different things are nowadays. I wonder does that affect the performances that NIPPLE yourself have, or just the music in general? Do you guys feel like hold back a little bit of how you have to handle situations that's going on in this lifetime?
Well, we talked about our origins, and now we're at a different place where we have bass player Chris Stagg and a new drummer, Al Finson. And they're adding another level to our music as well. And I think if I was going to say in a nutshell what we're about now, we're about sharing positivity with our music. And although our origins were overcoming trauma, I think now we want to just share messages of positivity in a way of bringing different people together. Not trying to separate because of race or gender or sexuality or whatever, or all the problems that we're having in our lives, but actually come together to just have a positive time together.
I think really the world need that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not only Canada, not only all the issues we have with housing here in Vancouver right now, and what is happening in the U.S., but also the world in entirely really need that unity. And then I think musicians really have something to.
The world is in like maybe one of the weirdest times of ever. I thought the pandemic was weird. I thought that was weird. Now it's even, and now it's even weirder. It's like how could it even get? It did. It somehow did.
Yeah.
And so we need pockets of positivity.
Yeah.
To kind of lift our spirits, to give us some reprieve from that angst. And you can't stay in that state for too long. It's not good to be in that kind of depressed, overstressed state. It's just too heavy on your mind. And so we offer something light, and sometimes a little subversive. Sometimes our music is a little subversive or playful.
Yeah.
But it's just a little break.
I think it's the fun that we need nowadays, a little distraction to get us away from everything that's happening, in the world. And I just was wondering if the both of you have any advice or even ways to put things together and how the world is moving right now. Do you think that it will get better in time as music continue to hopefully nothing gets obviously cut down with what we have right to sing or whatever goes on, but do you think music is part of that element to heal and to build a future the way things were back in the days? Do you say?
Yeah. I mean, the short answer would be yes, right? But, I don't think it's just music that can do those things, right? I think that's the role of artists, right? We're here to reflect what the world is, but we're also here to project what the world could be, right? It's not to say that we're actually going to have the answer, right? But it is, it is possible to show the world for what it is and provide a message of hope that believes that humankind can actually come together and improve things, right? And I think, there's a lot in the world. There are certainly a lot of structures and institutions in the world which are set up to maintain divisions. They're set up to focus on differences. They're set up to ensure that we have, different statuses. And those institutions need to change. And, the mechanism for identifying which institutions those are, and there are lots of them, are often going to be voiced by artists, mostly because artists will tend to provide a message that isn't set up in some kind of direct, empowered confrontation with those institutions. It's more tertiary and observational, and it informs and directs actual social activism, right? And I think you need artists to say there are things that are wrong, but you also need artists to say that things can be better. Right. Because if there is no message of better, what's the point? Right. I mean, it doesn't help anyone to identify that, it hurts to walk on broken glass. Right. But to say we could make shoes, or we could stop breaking glass. Right. Like we can come up with things that are, we have the ability to correct things. We have the ability to change things. And on a very basic level, we are the change that we want, right? And if we don't if we don't accept that there's a personal responsibility in each and every one of us to look within, and for people in places of privilege, and I guess I would be amongst that.
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable to look at yourself and say that there might be something wrong that supports me, right?
That's a difficult
But it is
place.
absolutely necessary to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And
Yes.
it's the artist that has to do that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
If
My goodness.
Good saying
that was
Where-
really
where
good.
put that? Was that Robbie you
Yeah.
talking there? Or was that Rob talking?
I have a friend of mine. His name is Rob.
Right on.
The good thing is he used to be my boss. He's still my boss till now, and I'm pretty much sure that he's gonna watch this. He owns Hipposonic Studio.
it.
don't know
Oh
if you
yeah, I've
guys
been to
know.
that studio.
Oh, yeah, we know that one.
Yeah, you know Rob?
Yeah. Well, I
We
don't
know
know
the
that we know
place.
Rob. We know
Because
the
you
studio.
know the studio, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
the owner of
it's
that
beautiful.
studio, his name is Rob.
Nice.
And we always talk about some of these issues that the societies go through, especially in terms of separations and things that, So I want to know, most of the time, we know that music has a bigger impact to the community.
Mhm,
Music can influence. Musicians can do something.
mhm.
But usually what happens is you'll find out musicians pick a part when it comes to the government, like who's going to govern the country. Like if you see in America right now, you realize some musicians are picking up the Democratic part, party, and then others go to Trump's side.
Mhm.
And then my only issue is when we pick parts like that, is it really still to try to help the people, or it's because we go on our own interest as musicians? Is there any how musicians can be kind of like in between what is happening politically in a country? Because people most of the time they're just victim of what is happening, and musicians are in a good position because they've that bigger influence. So my question would be, do you guys think we should keep music in the center and on the side of the population and not just leaning on one side of politics? Because we never know, politicians are very clever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and I mean, they convince us that Democrat or Republican is actually a choice, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
where it's an illusion. I mean, you're gonna, you only have two options. You got to pick one. I mean,
That's so true.
You only have two
we're
options.
giving you a choice. We're just not giving you a range of options, really. But I think, like, for one of the dangers that you run into as an artist is that when you declare yourself in support of one thing or another, you kind of exclude everyone who isn't on that side of the choice, right?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to make real social change, you have to have some way of leaving the door open for the other side, right? So, while we may be subversive, and being subversive is, for all intents and purposes, it's being anti-establishment.
Yeah.
I'm not really, completely anti-establishment. I think that we need to have a society that functions, and we may need some things
Yeah.
that help organize that. But I think that it's important for us to question our institutions, right, and to hold them accountable. I mean, so many of the institutions, even in a country as new as Canada, are like legacies of a colonial period that none of us are directly connected to anymore, right? Like colonialism was a thing for several hundred years, and Canada was born from it. But like, I can't run home to England or Scotland or Ireland. I'm kind of a mixed pie at this point, because my ancestors have been away from those areas for far too long. So I have no home to return to. Right?
Yeah.
You've been here for quite a few
But we
generations.
do have a lot of institutions that we could
Anyway.
change, because the things that underpin them are still maintaining the biases of that colonial construct. And I think it's healthy for societies to question those things that are holding power, like government or police, or right, and to say, well, does this actually represent what we need now? Right? Is it reflecting the society that we want to have? And I think those institutions won't change themselves. They have to be questioned.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't do that, then you don't progress. You're kind of held back to a mentality that was formed in, like 1790 or something. And that's not really, I think, where the modern Canadian mind should live, right? We should be living in a modern world. We're taught, I think we're probably still taught in high school in Canada. It's been a long time since I was there, but that Canada is a cultural mosaic. But our institutions are not focused on a cultural mosaic. They're focused on a colonial construct. And if we don't evolve them to actually function within that intention of a mosaic, of a multicultural landscape, then they won't be effective. And there will always be people who are on the wrong side of that bias, right? And I'm quite certain that nobody wants to be on the wrong side of government bias because, they control everything, right? So it's important that we recognize that there are those elements, that we identify the things that need to change, and we change them. And, the amount of pushback that you get from people who are already in those institutions is because it's hard, right? Not because it's wrong to question those things. It's just hard to do it.
Yeah.
It's hard work, right?
It is hard work.
But it's necessary work. It has to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that government or policing agencies or corporations or any of the institutions that really control a lot of what happens in our society on a day-to-day basis will do that work unless somebody is there to push it and say, this has to happen, right?
Wow.
We need to make these ideas real. We can't just have them as ideas and ignore them in actual function, right? So,
That's very interesting.
But is there anyhow anything you think that will help people to push like the government? Because I think there's only two ways to make the government listen. One is by electing them or electing differently, or somehow getting the population to get angry and they start pushing you by marching around and all these things, which is chaotic and nobody wishes that. Do you have anything that you think would help those who think change should really happen? We need a change and it should happen.
Yeah, that's the hard part from the citizen position, The only time that we really exercise our power, at least in government, is when we vote.
When we vote, yeah.
And that, as I sort of hinted at, is a little bit of an illusion because we only have so many options, right?
Yeah.
I would say that if the majority of Canadians were not happy with any of the parties, it might be time to form a new one that actually represents what kind of changes that we want to see and what kind of government we would like to form.
Yeah.
Obviously, that takes, in today's world, a lot of resources, right? And so it's a very difficult thing to initiate. But even trying to transform a party from within is a possibility, right? You can become a member of a party and you can make your desires known, right? I mean, the Green Party is kind of the last real party. And I mean, it suffers from being kind of monolithic in its focus. but it shows you that there is an ability to kind of establish something and start making a movement. It would be nice if these things happened faster, right? But I can't imagine that sort of thing happening in America right now. They got two parties. They've only ever had two parties. You know, through some of my youth, there were occasionally independent presidential candidates, but they never fare well.
Yeah.
I think politics is starting to come through in some of our songs. Like it's not as overt as like Bob Marley or Joni Mitchell,
Right.
Yeah.
but I think like Rob's song "Paradise Lost" kind of touches on a lot of that subversive. Yeah. Let's take another look at this and kind of flip things around and flip the script, and then you can see things differently, and it's not what you expected.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Sarita. If you look at, when you look at Canada right now, and you look at your children and their future, because we build the world for the future. We are living for the future. We are here just because of the future, for those who are like the next generation. Do you think this is really the Canada that you are expecting to hand over to your kids as a mother, or do you think we should have a different one?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I think it's a work in progress.
Okay.
You know, and we all have a role in developing this. You know, me in my work, I'm a teacher, so I'm dealing with students all the time, but I can influence them in my way, in my, you know, modeling my behavior and my worldviews. I get to share with them. So I'm, you know, doing what I can, and in the, you know, the community that I'm able to affect. And I think that we all have to just do our same thing with sustainability. You know, how are we gonna, you know, change? There's some big systems in place that have to change. You know, the way that pollution is coming from industry and from cars, but a lot of it, and it was just on the news this morning, a lot of the CO2 problems are from the forest fires.
Yeah.
And Canada is on the map now because of all the forest fires and putting all that garbage in the air. You know, well, that goes back to, well, it's global warming and it's climate change that's causing that.
Yeah.
But we all have to do our own share with you can't just point the finger at businesses. They have to do their share too. But, you know, I got to take care of my garbage. I got to take care of my recycling. I got to take care of how I throw things out, you know, and just make decisions in a better way. That's, it's not a big change. It's a shift. It's a shift to, instead of the status quo and accepting the status quo, we got to go, let's just shift a little bit over this way and do things slightly differently. And that is what's going to help our planet and help our country, Canada, to become better.
Yeah. I really like the part of the responsibility that should come from everybody that you say. Because most of the time we hear people talk about the future and the past compared to the past. You hear, like especially like adult, they'll say, yesterday was better. You know, we used to live this way. Housing were fine and like things were a bit balanced. Right now it's crazy and things like that. And it's good that we all need to acknowledge that it's our responsibility to evolve so that we can at least shape the future again.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna add up to a question with Sarita as well. Before you stole my spotlight there for a little bit.
You know I'm gonna steal it.
Oh, you were waiting for that one.
I'm prepared for this show tonight.
Sarita, you mentioned you were a teacher, and obviously we've discussed how so many things have changed now in this society. My question to you is if there's any pressure for the teachers. For example, maybe you have certain things you have to teach, and maybe you may or may not agree with it. does that create any problems to some teachers, as in like, I have to teach these things, but even though I don't agree with it, or I feel like it won't change the future of the kids who are upcoming, do you feel there's pressure now on teachers, which can relate to music as well as artists today?
Teachers in general, or me as a teacher?
As well, opinion for you, for
Okay.
what you think about
So my background is in fine art. So I started out as a painter, sculptor,
Wow.
silk screen artist.
Where? Yeah.
And
Nipple
so
bag.
in my way of teaching, I teach to my strengths. So I teach from a fine arts perspective. I teach with arts on my back. I bring art into my classroom. I teach sustainability or rhetoric or philosophy classes with that background on my shoulder. So I'm always coming from that perspective. So whatever I have to teach, I've always got that. I think all teachers will teach to their strengths, and that's the best way to be a teacher.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question in some part, but the other part is, as Sarita or as Rob, any notable situation that you think is happening right now that you can help in music to try to help change? Anything you've noticed? What is wrong with the society now than it was back in the days?
What's wrong with? Sorry.
What is the issue right now? How are we here now in this position? What has happened to end up in this division that we are in right now? What do you think is wrong that has gotten us to this point right now?
Yeah, I think
there's no dialogue.
there's that, but there's polarization, and there's politicians that are actually trying to polarize.
Yeah.
And polyamorous, sorry,
You said that dirty word. A real politician.
and Trump is another guy, just like, causes division, and that we don't need that. We don't need those messages of negativity. What we need, and what I think music can bring, is bring us together and bring a strong foundation. What are our similarities? As long as we keep looking at differences, we're going to just keep separating. But once we look at what do we have in common, then we go, oh, now we can come together on common ground, and that's what's going to bring us together. But also music that's positive, and that's Nippleback. Nippleback is a message of positivity.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think
And
we've
hope.
lost the ability. Maybe not as much in Canada as in the United States right now, but we've lost the spaces where it was safe to have, like a conservative perspective and a liberal perspective in the same room, and have a fulsome dialogue about an issue and arrive at a compromise that probably annoys both, but is better for the general public. And I hear stories about like families that won't let their daughters date Democrats because they're Republican and stuff, right? And like that kind of thing to me just makes, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Like, how can you, the whole purpose of having different parties in government is that you are creating a dialogue for the significantly large groups of points of view, right, that share a point of view, and they're supposed to work together to achieve working solutions that are acceptable to the society at large. And if you're not able to have a discussion where compromise and solutions are the objective, then you're not doing your job politically, right? And there's less and less space for differences of opinion. And I don't know exactly why that is. I suspect that the internet has something to do with it, because, when you didn't have an easy box to go to and find a bunch of people to validate whatever idea you have, no matter how weird or extreme, like aardvark fetishists or something, there's probably a group, right? But when I was young, before the internet was a thing, right?
That's a big change. That's how
you had to interact with people with a significant range of ideas on a daily basis,
Right.
and they were around you. They were in your classroom. They were the adults in your life. But it was okay to have differences of opinion because you would talk and you might change your opinion, or you might come more to the center, or you might, but you could learn from each other and provide an impetus towards a more unified and acceptable and accepting society. And that seems to be going away. Now, I hate to harken back to the good old glory days when everything was perfect, because it wasn't perfect then either. But I do think that we live in a less civil social dialogue than we used to. And that lack of civility is making it really difficult for us to actually examine social problems in a real way with an intention of progressing toward a better situation than the one we have today. And I believe it's possible for us to learn to talk to each other again. Like, we all still have languages and we all still know how to use them, but we have to stop hiding in our feedback loops in order to do that, right? And it means that the liberal-minded have to do some difficult soul searching as well, right? Like, you have to be able to examine where your blind spots are, and maybe there are some things in the conservative world that are beneficial, right? And you have to be open to hearing those differences. I would love to get back to a world where the media, where our journalistic storytellers were returning to an unbiased perspective, and where we did not give credence to fact adjacent ideas. I think it's important. I think it's important for journalism to be grounded in some form of truth, but because otherwise we'll be
Alternate
we'll
truths.
be eating rocks from the moon for cheese, and it's ridiculous, right? Like, I don't know why people have to say, like, wouldn't it be good for us to start in a reality that is framed around real things, and then to form our opinions based on that, as opposed to let's just fictionalize everything and make it impossible for anyone to even discern what's real and what isn't anymore. I mean, that's great for whoever wants to snow you, but it's not really great for a functioning society, right? If half the people are wandering around going, the world is flat, right? I thought we dealt with this one. Copernicus was a long time ago, right? So,
That's
that's
very interesting. I'll steal your spot a little bit, Major. Let me steal your spot just a little bit there. I just want to follow up on Major's earlier question, and this question could direct to both of you, just on how the artists and the music world is now being entered into politics now, in a way. Do you think there's anything wrong with that? In a way, let's say, for example, Beyonce goes in Kamala's, and then had a little speech there. Do you think that's now defining the music in a different way, rather than just bringing certain people together, but it's also creating a division? What do you think is wrong with that? If they ask Nickelback today, Trump comes along, I want your side, or Kamala comes along, want your side. How do you determine that? How do you decide that?
So you mean like after the next election, and then when Canada's been
That's
invaded,
right.
and
just
we've surrendered because we'd have to. Who do we support?
Nickelback to come to rescue.
Wow. I think that you know, it's the right of any citizen to declare a political opinion, right? Like I do. I think, you know,
Yeah.
but I grew up in a household. My dad was a journalist. And so, you know, for most of my young life, I was undeclared, unequivocally. I was not, you know, supportive of any party, at least publicly. You know, obviously, people voted because in that day and age, journalists, if they wanted to be able to function and talk to politicians and have politicians grant interviews and whatnot, they had to be unaffiliated. It's different now, right? That's what I mean. The world has changed significantly in that, right? You know, the fifth estate is now no longer an island unto itself, free of political aspirations, at least public ones. And now they're, you know, Fox News is very much staunchly, you know, hawkish, and CNN, you know, is very much Democrat, or, you know, those kinds of distinctions can be dangerous in the media. But when you're an artist, you can, you can, but it's hard to walk it back, right? So if you really want to speak across people in general, and highlight the commonalities of them, that's the danger, right? If you say, well, hey, I'm supporting this person, and it, you know, right now, the American view of this election is that it's almost an existential threat to all things democratic and social, and so maybe that's not something that people want to walk back from, right? You know, like to say, okay, I got to reach the other side. But that's the danger, right? You can make a choice and then you're sort of stuck in that bed forever. You know, we can't forget that once upon a time, historically, the Republican Party ended slavery, right? So they were at that, you know, in antebellum America.
Yeah.
Right?
Abraham
Was
Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln's party, right?
Yeah.
So parties evolve, right? So you got to worry, like if you put your foot in one camp and the camp flips, now you're attached to that, right? Like, so, you know, you have to be, I think you have to exercise judgment in how you want to measure or how you want to mete out direct political endorsement and participation, because, you know, for me as an artist, I want to speak to people.
Exactly.
Right. I don't want to speak to specific people who share my point of view. I would like to speak to people and lift up the humanness of all of them, right? And try and get something that brings back that kind of civil dialogue where we can talk about our differences and diminish them, right? I think it's important that we start lifting up our commonalities and these arbitrary distinctions that we have, you know, nations and races and religions, and those things are the differences that 5-year-olds see.
Wow.
Right. But when you're 4, you don't see any differences at all. You know, and I think it's important that we get back to how we interact with each other before we're taught all of these differences. Because when we're kids, we're just kids. We go on and play, and you know,
That's true.
right? And we're taught differences, and we're taught distinctions, and we're taught you know, social norms. And a lot of the social norms that I was taught as a kid are framed around differences, right? And that's, you know, how to behave in situations and with certain social situations. And I think we have to move past that stuff. We have to move back to teaching our children that we're the same, not different, you know. I mean, if you meet somebody from America, whether they're Republican or Democrat, if they don't tell you up front, you could have a perfectly civil cup of coffee with them, and talk about sports and never have a clue, and it wouldn't matter to you, right? And the reality of that is that a lot of these things that we're setting up as fences are preventing us from functioning as societies, right?
Wow. The way I grew up, when I was growing up, I used to think, but now it's totally different. I used to think that vote should be a secret, should be something personal, because you decide from within, then you give your vote to somebody you believe should lead your life.
And you never can tell anybody who
Yes,
you vote for.
you shouldn't tell anyone who you're voting for. When I moved to Canada, I realized that, okay, that's totally different. You can really listen to somebody and directly you realize, oh, he's a liberal, conservative. Because mind in Congo, where I'm coming from, we do have a lot of parties. You know, right now we're talking about two parties, just two choices. I'm coming from a country where you're gonna have almost 20 choices.
Oh.
But the good thing is, yes, the most interesting thing is most of those 20 choices, maybe we just have 5. The rest are part of one, just divided to capture other people.
Oh, okay.
Those who think, okay, they don't buy our ideas, they will go here, but we still catch them from the other side too.
I see.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the game is played over there. It's a bit different from here, but again, it changed my mind. When I moved here, I realized, you should just be one side and everybody should know you that, I'm just liberal. And that's what's really happening right now. It's no longer like a choice which should be a secret, you know. I'm wondering, to move on from this discussion right now, I'm wondering if the media is not really playing a bigger part in whatever is happening right now in terms of division, and which is the reason why podcasts are now becoming most influential.
Yeah.
Because most people are tired of what is happening on TV.
Yeah.
You open here, it's all liberal.
Yeah.
You open here, it's all opposite, conservative.
Yeah.
And you wonder, like, okay, when am I going to be in between and just love what is happening here and here? So people are kind of moving from that to podcasts.
Yeah.
Which is more like...
I honestly believe that most people are a combination of the two, right? Like that you know, it's unfortunate, but certainly in North American politics, you know, whatever hat you wear, suddenly everything about you is known. But it isn't, right? It's just, you know, you know, the differences between, you know, the NDP and the Liberals are so minuscule nowadays that it's hard to understand why they're two different parties, right? But I mean, I do understand why they're two different parties, but I mean, historically, the New Democrats were a much less centrist and a much more socialist kind of party. But as time has gone on, in my lifetime anyway, both the Conservatives and the NDP have inched ever closer to the center, and now everybody's sort of pretending to have, like, they actually have centrist views, but then they tout a couple of really extreme, like either left or right ideas to show that they're, you know, still differentiating, right? But they're not really that different. I don't know that you get a whole lot of difference with the Canadian parties right now, but you know, I mean, even in BC, like, the Liberal Party rebranded as something else and then folded into the Conservatives. But for the last 25 years, everybody in British Columbia has understood that the Liberal Party was the Conservative Party, only provincially they were not, right?
Wow.
You know, so this conservative motion that came out of nowhere, as the media is saying, it's been here all along, right? Like, it's been a thing. So I don't really know how you can make a whole bunch of parties. I mean, I remember seeing lists of 14 candidates when I was voting as like in my 20s with all different parties. And, now you might get 5. There'll be a couple of independents, or there'll be the Communist Party guy.
Or the Rhinoceros Party.
Yeah. Oh, the rhinos are gone now.
Are they
The rhinoceros
obsolete?
died.
Oh,
Maybe we
they're extinct.
They
The
hey,
right-
man, I actually elected a rhinoceros guy once. Yeah. When I might have been the first guy I've ever voted for.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think you're satisfied?
I'm really happy to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Us
because
too.
I think this is what really makes you special as a band.
Exactly.
Because having this knowledge and bring it to the people, this is kind of like you're playing your all. And I wish you can tour the world
Mm.
and bring this message as musicians,
Yeah.
because people are really lasting for this. People need it. But again, who's going to bring it? Because everybody right now is on either side.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
really
mean,
hard to unify people.
It's hard to talk.
Yeah,
It's hard to talk politics in a public way if you're not a politician, right?
that's the thing.
Because you don't know where the blowback will come from, right? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's frightening.
It is for sure.
Because right now it seems, we're supposed to be in this this open, rational, thoughtful, free society, democratic and wondrous in all ways. But the reality is that there are deep divisions between these points of view, and some people are very angry about them, regardless, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to embrace anger than it is to try to understand an alternate point of view.
Yeah.
And that's a scary position, even in a country like Canada, because there are lots of people who are not open to a rational discussion of a difference of opinion. And I think,
that's true.
that we need to do that.
But if I could just say, I think that anger is sometimes a manifestation of frustration, that people are just so frustrated that they blow up and are enraged. And then they don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Wow. Well,
she won't let me write sad songs anymore. She told me. That was the challenge. When we first
Really?
put the band together, I wrote, all the misery songs and the
Okay,
anger songs.
okay, but
because
hang on.
Nickelback just seems very happy,
Yeah.
And
Okay,
Sarita
but-
has something, yeah.
Oh yeah, because his last song was called "All Is Darkness."
Uh-oh.
That was my last song.
That was
That was the last song I wrote before she told me I wasn't allowed to write sad
yeah. It
songs
was like
anymore.
okay, write something happy.
She was like, enough of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting challenge, right? It's very easy, and I think the younger you are, the easier it is
That's true.
to see what's wrong and to scream and yell about what's wrong and to just focus on that.
God
And-
save the Queen. We mean it, man. She ain't no human being.
Just going back to her punky roots. But when you're confronted, like if you challenge yourself, okay, well, can I identify things that are bad or difficult or wrong, but find a way to spin it into having a positive outcome, or
Wow.
to at least open a door where you can where you leave a little light at the end of the tunnel as opposed to just, letting the portcullis come down and not let you through. I think that challenge from a songwriting perspective really helped me grow as a songwriter, right? I think there are so many examples of angry music, and there's so many examples of sad music, and that don't that don't show you, a hope at the end of them. And I mean, let's face it, depressing teenagers is kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, right? But and I've certainly encountered that when you do explore sentiments that are positive, younger people struggle with that a little bit. But those are the songs that don't get lost in the noise, right? Because that's the stuff that people will latch onto, right? Oh, wait, there is hope. I need some of that, right? I don't need you to tell me that it's tough to be a teenager. I need you to tell me that I will grow up. I need you to tell me that I will have a better day tomorrow. I need you to tell me that I can break up with my girlfriend, but it's okay. Like there'll be another partner, right? And those are not always easy messages to get to, or to bring out, or to present. But I think it's important that artists explore a range of emotions. And that they really introduce people to what emotion, positive emotion can be great too, right? And having fun, and I think it can't all just be material things and broken social mechanisms and anger and sex, women and fast cars. I mean, there has to be more to being human than those things, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, definitely. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Just, but I'm pretty sure you answered it. Just of any advice you would give to any other bands who are just starting out, and how they're about to go through the process, and how should they go about it. That's just one of the questions I wanted to ask. But Sarita can answer that question. Any advice you give to our
How to go about it?
Yeah. How finding a good name?
Well, get a good name. You have to love what you do. You have to love doing it, because there's a lot of thankless hours that you spend at your craft, practicing scales or doing, hauling gear around town. So you have to just love it, doing it. And you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that there's some kernel in there that has something to express. And then when you're looking for material to write about, I mean, there's something inside that you feel that you got to get out. I find it hard to write sad songs. Rob is good at it, but I'm better at writing silly, wacky nonsense songs like The Bottom of the Floor, The Ocean of Air or something. The saddest song that I wrote is Pluto, the one that you mentioned.
Right.
I wrote that right after my dad died. But it's not a sad song. It's a song of longing for love that is missed.
It's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
It was really awesome.
But there's got to be something that you feel in somewhere that you got to get out. And that's and then you just got to keep working at it. Just keep plugging away, even if it feels hard or weird or whatever. Just keep going and just keep. What did Journey say?
Yeah,
Don't stop believing.
That's a really wonderful one. I just want to have some silly questions here to ask before. We know, obviously, Nippleback is a very fun band, but we also had a very, very deep, good discussion about every answer you guys gave us is absolutely phenomenal. I'm pretty sure if you guys know about it, about politics these days, we know there's a lot going on. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. But we wanted to know just about any bizarre gig you ever played. We want just a little bit. There has to be a little something. Memory.
A little something.
Oh yeah. Well, there was that lady. We played a car free gig, a car free days
On Davie
gig
Street. Yeah.
down on was on Denman, wasn't
Oh,
it?
Denman. Sorry,
Yeah.
Denman.
Yeah.
And we were down. The stage we were playing was like Denman and Robson, basically, and you're on the street. Like there's nothing between you and the crowd, right? Except a couple of monitors and we were playing a song and it was like there was nothing in the song that was off-putting or offensive or anything. It was like it was a rewritten fairy tale basically. And I was singing the song and this woman came up like 1 inch from my nose and went, ew, and then walked away. And I was like,
She saw her sign.
I was
she
completely
saw
like,
the name
what?
of the band.
Where is that coming from? But we had a sign that was, 12 feet long that said "nipple back," and I guess she was.
She saw the name of
she
the
was,
song. Then she
had a problem with. She had a problem
with
with the band's name, but
Wow.
she didn't really express anything other than that. She just ew, and then off she went. Looking around at the band, kind of.
Didn't you forget some progression?
What? Did I play a bad note? Like, so that was a weird.
Well, that must be
a
also
weird,
the
that was a
funniest.
weird experience. Yeah, I mean, we laughed about it because it was so unusual, and I don't think that we'd ever before or since had somebody respond sort of viscerally negatively to our name.
Yeah.
So I'm glad there was one.
Yeah.
One's okay.
Right on.
Wow.
Major, I don't know if you have any last question before we wrap up here.
Yeah, so I know I'm gonna have some yes/no
Yes/no
questions,
questions.
but that's later.
Those are coming up.
Yes. I'm interested to know when you are on stage like that, and then somebody approaches that close, because that's really close, right? And then they walk away. Does that mean you don't have a team or people on the ground to maybe approach the person and try to find out what's really happening? Because I'm imagining if I'm your manager and something like that happened, I'll go to the person just to know if maybe they went there because they were excited with joy, or maybe there's something that they wanted to pass to the public, because you never know. So I'm wondering, do you guys have a team that work with you,
like
or
a street
for now
team
you
or
just
something?
Oh, that would be a
Yes.
good idea.
yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
in the future we might
we'd
do
never
that.
felt that we needed security. before,
Not like a security, but
um,
like a management team.
That would be a good
Yeah.
idea, especially for those
Yeah.
when you're right on the street.
yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah.
pretty DIY right now. Like,
Good.
although we say decide it yourself. So at times we do like hire people, help with a merch table or something.
Yeah.
But we've never had a team. I don't know that it happens often enough that we would hire somebody to, full time to track down the people who say ooh. But certainly if we were doing venues where that became a thing, or we became, somehow politicized or something where you might actually be getting that kind of feedback on a regular basis, I think we would want somebody there to collect the message. It's really hard for a band in the middle of a song to enter
break
into an engagement like
you
that.
can't. You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you're really
Because you still
you
need
got
to
a
serve
job
other
to do.
people.
It's playing the music that you're there for.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've certainly seen acts, make speeches, explain a point of view, right, or something that's really dear to them that's happening in the world, and maybe say that a song is about that as an introduction. And I think there's absolutely a place for that for artists to do when they're doing shows, but it's very hard to get into one-on-one conversations with the audience because you're there to entertain all the people who are there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm totally open, and I'm sure Sarita is as well.
Yeah.
Come and talk to us after the show.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Oh, yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Like,
That's really good.
we'll talk to you, and we'll share share our
T-shirts.
thoughts, right? And we'll hear your
T-shirts.
thoughts.
We'll give you
too, right?
T-shirts.
That's
And
take a
that's
picture.
important.
Stickers and fridge magnets.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Sarita likes to give swag. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But we always want feedback as artists.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's and we're not. It's not about validation, right? Like it's
Yeah.
there's this idea that artists do it so that people will applaud, right?
Mm,
Mostly we play our music because we love playing music, and we love that energy exchange that you have with an audience when you're playing music in front of them and they're responding. And I don't need people to tell me what kind of an artist I am or if I'm an artist at all, right? I think the only person who can determine if you're an artist is the artist. And basically, the day they believe they're an artist is the day they become one. And then after that, it's just making art and trying to communicate, right? Art is about messages, and they may not always be overt, but there's always something in the art. And if your art has no message, it's no art at all.
Yeah.
It's,
That's true.
I love it.
Yeah. To conclude my question, I know there's always a lot of questions, BK.
Yeah, I got plenty.
Yeah. Wish we can even sleep here.
Oh, yeah.
Just asking questions. Talking of the music industry in Vancouver right now, do you think we could do much better in terms of like the industry itself and how it's organized right down here, from the government, the culture, and the people who are engaged in music? Because I never been to a concert in Ontario, but I heard that the musical scene in Ontario is kind of wide, and like in Toronto compared to Vancouver. Do you think we are kind of too cold and we should hype it up just to help musicians also to feel as if they're really doing a job, and they should get the people to engage with that?
Seems like we lost a lot of places for live music during the pandemic. A lot of clubs closed.
Yeah.
And I remember, was that March 20th? We had some gigs lined up for St. Patrick's Day or whatever, and they got all canceled.
Yeah.
And since then, some have come back, but we don't have as many live venues as they do in Toronto. And, that is what I think is missing in Vancouver, is that there aren't enough opportunities for bands to actually play.
Yeah. Especially indie bands, right?
Yeah, indie bands, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
and Toronto is huge, right?
Toronto is huge. Yeah.
And because of its size, not only does it have a lot of venues, but it's able to support a wide variety of cultural musics, right? Vancouver has a lot of, there's a lot of musicians in Vancouver. Like, it's crazy how many there are.
A lot.
And
Maybe
there's a
different
lot of big cultural music scenes in Vancouver. I mean, there's a whole Bangura thing going on in Surrey, and but there's, I think, it gets more country if you go out to Langley, and there is stuff going on. The problem is that there isn't enough people that all of those scenes can operate healthily, whereas in Toronto they can, right? Because to get a good music scene happening, you need small venues where open mics happen, where people can cut their teeth on stage and test material, and meet other musicians and form bands, and you need a healthy culture around that kind of fosters musicianship. And then you need medium-sized venues that bands that kind of emerge from that scene can play in.
Wow.
And you need enough people who are interested in live music to keep those venues full, because it doesn't work if nobody shows up. And then you know, and Vancouver has plenty of large venues, but they don't have a lot of those medium venues, and they don't seem to draw the same amount of regular attendance that you would expect. So a lot of those medium venues are actually bringing in quite significant bands from out of town, because they'll do a draw because they're from out of town, but you're not getting a lot for like local musicians. It's almost like we have to leave town. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, it's hard to fill a joint now, and it hasn't helped that, you know, inflation is making everything cost
crazy,
more.
right? It's crazy.
It's like, you know, when I was in college, you could get a beer and a burger for $5, right? And there was a special at a restaurant down the road here. It was a beer and a burger for $28.
Wow.
That was that was like a special for the day. So I was like, wow, you know, I'm trying to have perspective.
Right now, right
I
now,
won't use the restaurant's name because that's not fair to them.
yeah,
But I mean, it's, you know, it is a different, like, you know, it's definitely, the world has changed, you know, COVID changed a lot of things, and, you know, people got used to being indoors, I think. Like, they don't, you know.
they're getting used to getting
Yeah,
indoors.
they got to get used to going out. Like,
Maybe we should be indoors too.
going out and supporting people and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Can you please endorse Afro Diaspora?
Yeah.
You're looking
That's
right at
right.
the camera
Will
saying
be
that.
endorsed.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah.
We're gonna head to the
bring the diaspora
favorite time
out
of
the doors.
favorite time of the night, man. Let's go to the yes or no questions, Major. Shall we?
Yes or no questions.
Yes or no question. It's
Yeah.
an easy one. That
So
almost
you say
everyone-
no, and I say yes.
That could work too.
So yeah, these ones usually they come from WhatsApp groups.
Oh,
When we
nice.
post, when we post the pictures of the artists we receive, sometimes we get questions from people.
Oh.
They say, okay, can you pass these questions to them?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And here's the first question. Yes or no, most Canadian musicians find it easier in America, in the US, than they find it easier here in Canada, in their home country.
I would probably say yes, honestly. I mean, I haven't played in the States, so I don't know. But I think that, you know, Seattle has a pretty healthy alternative music scene, and it's thriving. But here, there's little pockets like Montreal, Toronto, but Vancouver is pretty Deadsville compared to, you know, what's happening in the States.
Yeah, it's probably easier to tour, but right now it's really expensive as a Canadian to
Oh, yeah.
go there
To go
to play.
to go to the States to play
They
as a
just,
Canadian,
they
you have
just
to pay
jack the visa costs.
wow.
it's over $2,000 to get your visa now to go over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
a
like,
lot.
yes, if we could go there, it would be easier because
Yeah.
there are lots more people and they're closer together. But no, it's hard to go there.
Yeah.
But how about those ones who get signed over there, like Drake? Like you see, you're talking about people like Drake,
Oh yeah,
Michael Bublé. We have all these people that I used to think they were American. When I moved here, I find out that they're
Oh.
Canadians. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
everyone wants to break America, right? Unless you're like the Tragically Hip. But even when they started, they wanted to break America. They just stopped caring about it. You know, I'd love to do it. I mean, I think it'd be awesome to travel around America and play music and interact like actually with that society, you know, as opposed to viewing it from next door.
Yeah.
But right now it's hard to do unless you're like A-list established artist with enough money to get over the border. You know, it's I mean, they
100%.
pretty much, I can go visit,
You can go visit.
I can afford that. You know,
You can afford visiting in America.
Pay a little
somebody
trip.
loans me a guitar when I get over there. You know, okay.
Right. Another one. Yes or no? Most rock musicians find a pleasure in buying instruments that they will never even play in their lifetime.
No way, man. You buy instruments because you want to play them.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
I've never bought an instrument as a piece of jewelry. Have you?
Just to cheer your house.
Yeah.
It's like wall jewelry. No, forget
I
it.
think Sarita has something to say about that. I think Sarita has
Well-
something. Yeah.
I bought a harp.
Yeah, but you played
I
it.
did play it. and then I got carpal tunnel from it, so I stopped playing.
She played it till she injured herself.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bought a mandolin.
You played that
I
too.
play a little bit. but
wow.
I've never
So
bought.
many instruments you bought.
Well, that's what I mean. I want to fill my house with instruments. Yeah.
So that's awesome.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm mixed about that because I love the aesthetic aspect of musical instruments. They're gorgeous just to look at.
Mm.
So I would buy something like just to look at it and never play it for sure. So yes.
So wow. So we got yes and a no. out
Yes
there.
and no.
That's,
That's
that's
so two
amazing.
sides of the nipple back out there.
There you go.
And we're still married.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's weird.
That's it.
That's
I even
nice.
play her instruments. Like, she buys an instrument, I play that one too. I don't care. Instruments are meant to be played, I think. You know.
Yeah.
Some of them you buy just for decoration, but he goes behind your back and he
Plays them anyways.
plays anyways without you
Sure
knowing
works.
it.
It sure
Yeah.
Yes, Major.
Good. I have two more that's written here.
Okay.
The last one, this one is sent by a friend of mine who's in South Africa right now.
Okay.
And he asked, yes or no, the world leaders are making it very hard for people to travel the world freely. But they should really look at that and make everybody happy to travel and easier to any country they wish they can go.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
I think so.
easy yes.
Yeah.
It would be
This is-
nice.
'Cause it's really hard. I know people who are really rotting in refugee camps somewhere in Africa just to make it here in Canada. And they've been,
In an ideal world,
yeah.
we wouldn't have refugees, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. We shouldn't have refugees.
You know, like
Or
that. I mean,
borders. We wouldn't have borders either.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I think that's the real tragedy is that, we're arguing over how to cope with refugees, but what we should be doing is finding solutions for what's causing refugees to happen, right?
Mm.
That those kind of conflicts that are chasing people away from their homes,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Real talk.
But I don't, agree with that there's anything humane about sticking people in a camp for 7 years while they figure out where they can go, right? Like that's ridiculous. The world can do better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah.
Should do better.
100%.
Should do better. The last one. This one is tricky
Okay.
for musicians. Yes or no? Musicians complained that labels screwed them up when it was time for when labels were taking care of the music. Back in the days, that they never got paid, labels were bad. But now they are even crying more with digital distribution.
Oh yeah. What's the question in that though?
So the question is were we better with record labels back in the day compared to how we are with Spotify's and all this Apple Music, which gives us $4 in
That's like a
That
really
is
after
a trick
distributing our
question.
music.
Come on, man.
Question.
I use
Yeah.
those.
So that's the question. Are we better now? Or now labels were doing much better, even though they were, screwing up us up?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say yes and no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
I think
Nickelback,
that
agree.
like in the heyday of labels, it was harder for musicians to record music and get it out into the world
Yeah.
because there were gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Right. And that meant that probably there were lots of musicians that never really did that. And as such, we probably lost all sorts of tunes now, but now we're in a world where everybody has access. And there are no gatekeepers. And I don't know, what's Spotify getting? Like 250,000 songs a week or something, or a day? It's like
get a
it's
lot.
a crazy number, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that not all that music is worth being published and put out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly the dude who put together 150,000, fake AI songs and then, and then used bots to listen to them.
Oh my God.
I
That
don't
one
think he was
too, eh?
helping music in any way. I don't think he was helping musicians in any way.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
But I think, now they're like to go from too few gatekeepers to zero,
Mm.
right, I don't think either of those is particularly good for musicians, right? But I don't think that what's really making life hard for musicians is whether or not there are labels. I think what's making it hard is that the new formats that we listen to music in,
Yeah.
the arbitrary numbers that were put in place for what you pay somebody for a stream,
Yeah.
those were just, they had no idea how to value that, right?
Mm.
And the number was low.
Mm.
Like it wasn't enough for musicians to make a living on,
Yeah.
and it's still low. And the courts haven't caught up. And there's, governments haven't really gotten in place to kind of rationalize
Yeah.
that. And, if we value music as a society, and I believe that we do, because people are obviously listening to it, right? Then we have to find a way to make it possible for the people who do that for a living to actually have a living doing it.
Yeah.
And right now, everything that happens in music, whether, it's getting poor returns on streaming or, having to pay a venue a piece of your merch sales in order to get into the venue. And like, there's all sorts of things that are going on, but everybody's kind of got to grab at the artist, but the artist has no empowerment to say, wait a second, without us, none of this happens, right? So, I think we could do better.
Mm.
There are people making lots of money who don't play at all.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Right. And, I think they could share the pie a little bit more. Right.
Wow.
I got a small fork, but I mean, I'd like, the occasional mouthful. Of
It's a little sound.
I get hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Andrew, thank you for asking those questions.
Yeah,
And
thank
shout
you.
out to everybody who asked those questions. Really, really tricky and also nice question.
I
Very
appreciate
useful.
it. I'm sorry that we weren't like very good
No,
with the yes
I
or
think that
no.
was good. I think that was a good answer. They're satisfied for sure.
Yeah.
But I'll have my last question, obviously, and then I'll give both of you the time to tell where to find your music and such thing, where to find Nickelback and all that. But my question is, what is Nickelback's favorite song released right now? From you, Sarita, and from Rob. Your favorite.
Favorite?
Yeah.
Oh.
And who wrote it? I was
Oh.
kidding.
Yeah.
I really wish it's a different song from everyone.
Okay. I love Paradise Lost. I think that really came out well.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I unexpectedly, as I didn't the recording turned out way better than I had thought it would.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a good title too.
Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I may have read Milton once upon a time
Oh.
in another life in college. For me, I think Waiting for the Sun is a song that I like best. It's quirky, great vocal performances, really, and a really nice guitar counter melody, and changes tempos and goes punk, and then comes back and then goes off on this crazy outro that's like, I don't know, something in Hair, you know. It's just an interesting musical journey, and it when the song ends, it's like you don't know where it began, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just it really takes you far away and to an unexpected place. And I love it for that. I love it for its journey, you know.
Wow.
And if I can say one more thing about his tune, if you miss any of the lyrics, like especially in the first verse, you won't get the rest of the song. So all of Rob's songs, you have to pay attention to all the words.
Wow.
He's a wordsmith, this guy.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good talent.
Yeah, writing is really a good
It's really
talent.
good talent.
Do you both write?
Well, I did.
You write?
I have a BFA in creative writing, but
Okay.
I didn't do poetry. Oddly enough, was not one of the things I did. I was like writing creative nonfiction and screenplay and stage play. But I think the process of doing that really transformed how I think about songwriting and how I think about editing and how I think about finishing things, right? You know, I used to push songs to the end because I'd started it and I thought, oh, you have to finish it. And, you know, I'd end up with a song that had like a really strong verse and a really strong chorus and then a bunch of drivel because I needed to fill the space and it wasn't very good. And I realized that it was okay to wait until the next good verse comes to you and you understand really what you're dealing with thematically. And then that would, so that, you know, everything is strong, right? That's the idea in the lyric.
Wow.
But it took me a lot of years to get to that point where I was patient. And I think you need to exercise patience and sometimes to overwrite a little so that you can edit out material and only go with the strong stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
that's the goal.
Real quick, just how's I want to ask Sarita, how's you mentioned the recording of it was very smooth on the song that you mentioned.
Yeah.
How is the recording process in the studio?
In the studio. Well, we recorded it at the House of Pain. And, I mean, the guys went in and laid down the bed tracks, and then we would do overdubs for guitars and whatnot. And then by the time we got to mixing it, and then once you fill it out and add some reverb and whatnot, it just all of a sudden it just all kind of comes together and it sounds full. And I wasn't expecting it to really kind of gel the way that it did. Yeah.
Wow.
The magic the producers do.
Do you record your vocals yourself, or do you have to go to someone? Or you do that? You have a studio?
We have an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, we're using the House of Pain, and Adam Payne is the recording engineer.
Oh, okay.
And then our producer, Sal Janis, also does our mixing for us.
Yeah, big up to them.
Yeah.
They're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's a brilliant producer. He's incredible with his mixes, and he really understands what the artist is, like what we're trying to do with our music. So I think he understands the vision that we have, and then he really helps us to realize that. And I engineer as well, but I refuse to do my own music. I know there are lots of artists that do, and I'm really impressed with them when they do.
Yeah.
But I find, there's a point in the mixing process where you have to decide what's in and what's out.
Yeah.
And when it's your babies, and it's all our babies, right?
Yeah.
It's so hard to make those calls, and it takes so much more time and effort and agony to do that. And when you can give it to someone who's got an outside set of ears and knows what you're trying to do, they can make those decisions really easily and then give it to you and you go, oh, you're right. That was the baby we had to kill. That's what opened up the space for the song, or So it's important to understand that making recordings is usually a team event.
And speaking of teams, I just want to do a shout out to the two guys that couldn't be here tonight. Our bass player, Chris Dagg. Awesome bass player.
Shout out to Chris Dagg.
Another one, Al Finson, our awesome drummer. Woo!
Wow. Good.
Yeah, we should thank Mo who
Mo
drummed on
Sherwood.
the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's blossomed into a visual artist.
Okay.
And he's given up his rock and roll lifestyle.
Oh no. All right.
He's getting married. He's gonna make little Mo's.
Well, I do want to find just
I know he's listening right now. Like, what is that?
Little Mo's.
We are very curious to know, where do we find Nippleback music, and obviously the performances, where we can get the information about that.
So you can find us on, I think, all streaming platforms.
Right.
We've been releasing through DistroKid, so everywhere it goes to. You can communicate with us at Nippleback_band on Instagram, or
Website?
Oh yeah, we have or you can go to nippleback.ca.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. And I think that we're still high enough up on the Google search that we haven't been overwhelmed by nipple tattoo replacement advertisements.
Okay.
We still end up on the front page, but I haven't checked recently, but I think so. And Facebook, did you?
Not yet.
Yeah. I do have a TikTok account.
Oh boy.
But I have not TikToked.
Okay.
I'm still winding the clock.
Yeah.
But I think we'll try and put some stuff out on TikTok,
TikTok,
and see
yeah.
what that world
It should
thinks
be
of us.
interesting.
Yeah.
It should be interesting.
And I know that we do post on Facebook, but we haven't created a page just yet. But yeah, we're out there. Instagram's the easiest way to get in touch with us, I think.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's it.
Beautiful.
So if I may understand, Sarita, you manage most of the social media, kind of like, oh, he does that. Okay, good.
Oh, well, we kind of split it. I do the website.
You do the
And-
website,
Yeah.
Facebook. I
Facebook.
do Instagram, YouTube.
So
Oh yeah, there is a Nippleback YouTube as well.
good.
There you
At
go.
And you have
Nippleback.
some videos on YouTube, or it's just like
currently
for now?
we have a very funny mockumentary
That's
of
That's the
of
one, yeah.
Nippleback with our original three members playing in an underground parkade in February. So we're cold, but it's fun with some funny interviews and a fake band history that is part of the story.
Okay.
Otherwise, we
love
just
it.
have a bunch of, because every time you release through DistroKid, it will kick out the art card
Yeah.
for your single and plunk a video with that art card up on YouTube. But we're working on some lyric videos and some real videos to go with the songs. But you can view the songs, although they're not very visually engaging right now, but they are still
Good.
good for your
Wonderful.
ears.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Good. But I'm finished.
Yo, of
right?
course,
Yeah.
Major.
Talking of, we know you're going to TikTok.
I gotta give it a
TikTok.
shot, man.
Yeah,
You know,
we're gonna encourage you to TikTok.
TikTok.
Okay.
so that Nippleback can go everywhere. I just want to know, are you guys part of any music society here in BC, like Music BC so far or anything else?
Not so far. Music BC. I've been meaning to actually join as a member. We did they have like some opportunities for artists to meet with marketers or other professionals in the industry, really to talk about how to develop a business strategy or how to develop a marketing strategy. And we did do that. We talked to Nagile, and I'm trying to remember his last name, which is escaping me right now. So I apologize. But it's a really great opportunity for people because it costs nothing. You don't even need to be a member of Music BC, but they are super helpful. They do provide a lot of really good information and direction, and they follow up as well.
Shout out to Music BC.
Music BC, they're pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's absolutely a pleasure. And fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big fun. F-U-N. That's a big fun right there to have Nipple back in the building.
So political.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. It's
I'm very honored to be here.
Absolutely.
We are blessed to have you in the house.
Yes. Really, really good
you
discussion.
guys are great. You're wearing the nipple wear.
We had to support. Listen, I listened to Nickelback a couple times, but Nickelback, have you heard of them? Yeah. I mean, they got my respect today. They're getting a fan. I'm a fan right here. So this guy, you can't go anywhere. But we do appreciate everybody for tuning in today, and just amazing show, sensational. And Rob, Sarita, absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to encourage everybody to keep subscribing to the channel and keep growing the family. This might not be the last time you can see Nipple back here. Obviously, they will be back again. We hope so.
Yeah, for
and I hope continue the.
If they don't come back, we'll go to their show.
Oh, there you go.
We'll go interview them in a show, right?
Okay.
I'll probably get close too if I want to. I'll probably want to do that, but
we know where to find them.
We know where to be there.
Exactly.
But I do appreciate everybody for tuning in, Afro Diaspora Nation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been Afro Diaspora Podcast. Here, I'm your host, Baraka, man. You know, sign out, you know the drill, man. On my right side, the guy in the back, are you ready? We got Major Mungisho. On my right side, I'm your host, Baraka. Yes, the camera. Come on, man. There you go. That was kind of slow. But on my left side, we got a sensational Sarita and Rob. Nipple back in the house.
Love.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Follow C Music on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel. Go to the family. We'll see you guys the next time. We are out. Peace.
Peace.
Good.
Thank you guys.
All right.